Next on Newsmax Prime, a federal appeals court rules against the National Security Agency and its collection of phone records. Now, what will Congress do? We'll ask Iowa's Steve King. Then, it's Election Day in the UK. Will our British cousins turn left? We'll talk about it with two veteran reporters. Plus, two presidential candidates make a Concord connection. See what Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump told New Hampshire voters. It's Thursday, May 7th, and Newsmax Prime starts now. Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. It's great to have you with us. Of prime interest tonight, a three-judge panel from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals issues a decision that leaves Congress with one big question. Miranda Kahn has more.
JD, the National Security Agency's warrantless collection of the phone records of millions of Americans is illegal. That's the ruling from a federal appellate court. Judge Gerard Lynch wrote the opinion for the three-judge panel, and he says the NSA's bulk collection of telephone records, quote, exceeds the scope of what Congress has authorized. That sets the stage for the debate in both the House and Senate over renewal over the Patriot Act. Newly appointed Attorney General Loretta Lynch was on Capitol Hill this morning testifying before a Senate panel on the Justice Department's budget request. When asked about the appeals court ruling, General Lynch said the administration would work with Congress as it conducts its debate and review, but called the controversial program effective.
We are reviewing that decision, but given the time issues involving the expiration of it, we are also and have been working with this body and others to look for ways to reauthorize Section 215 in a way that does preserve its efficacy and protect privacy.
The author of the Patriot Act, Wisconsin Congressman James Sensenbrenner, has said that the act was never meant to authorize the NSA's bulk phone collection program. So look for a much-spirited debate on Capitol Hill and, quite likely, some changes in the Patriot Act. J.D.?
Thanks, Miranda. And now to go in depth on this story, we welcome the Congressman from Iowa, my old colleague on Capitol Hill, Steve King. He's joining us by phone. Steve, thanks so much for joining us here on Newsmax Prime.
J.D., I'm really happy to be back on with you. Missed your service in Congress, but I'm glad you're informing America.
Well, let me inform the people of what the next steps are from your purview. We get that ruling from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals saying that the NSA's program on these phone records is illegal. What does that mean for renewal of the Patriot Act?
Boy, that is a good question. If the ruling is that the Patriot Act, the decisions on that is illegal, then we start looking back at what will it do to adjust that. Now, we have been writing USA Freedom Act, which is a renewal of the reauthorization of the Patriot Act. And what it does is it just flat bans the metadata collection by the federal government of telephone records. And it leaves the access to those records in this way. The telecommunications companies retain those records for their purposes. These are not recordings of conversations. It's just the billing information. They retain them for their records, and the length of time varies company to company. But if we're investigating, say, a terrorist, then there'd have to be a warrant from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court, a FISA court, before the federal government could access those records. So that's what we think we will do, and it seems to me that that would fit with a court ruling, too.
So the USA Freedom Act, as you talk about it, is the way to go, in your opinion? It's something you've been working on, and you think this is the right modification of what heretofore we've described as the Patriot Act?
J.D., I think that's the best fit that we have. And, you know, to modify it in that way, there needs to be, I think, a provision that allows a negotiation to take place between our intelligence community and the telecommunications companies so that those records are retained. Because I don't want to let somebody fly planes into our buildings again because we overdo this. But the public has more confidence in the private sector retaining those records than they do in the federal government. I agree with that. I think that's the best place for the records to be. And then we need to be examining the decisions of the FISA court so we know that they're not just giving a blank check anytime there needs to be an intention to scour our records.
And in retrospect, the fact that we had that look-back feature at the Patriot Act it certainly comes in handy right now vis-a-vis the court ruling and this reauthorization that you believe will result in passage of the USA Freedom Act. Let me move to another topic that is of great importance. It's the so-called amnesty amendment that has been added to the National Defense Authorization Act. It encourages the Secretary of Defense to study how many illegal immigrants who have been granted executive amnesty could serve in the U.S. military. What is your take on this amendment added to that defense authorization?
Well, I'm a strong supporter of national defense and national security, but I'll vote no on that bill if that provision is in it, because what it really does, it sets the stage. What are we going to do if the president decides we're just going to sign people up to the military who are unlawfully present in the United States, that the president has decided by his executive edicts are lawfully here? They have to take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. They have to lie to get into the military, and as in the conditions that they are now. So I would ask, which time did they lie, or did they lie both times? And why would you trust their oath to the Constitution if you can't trust them to tell the truth when they sign up to the military? I think this is a robust effort on the part of the open borders people to try to find another sympathetic group of people. And it says if we can't get enough people to sign up for our military today, 300 million Americans, we're downsizing our military, and we have to bring in mercenaries from foreign countries who are unlawfully here, and then reward them with the path to citizenship. For the president to support anything like that, it's outrageous from where I sit, JD, and I will fight it. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think that immigration should not be in the NDAA.
And we know that Congressman Mo Brooks of Alabama has been working hard against this and put together the letter as well. Here's the other thing that often happens, Steve, and you're familiar with it. It happened during my days in Congress. You hear from the leadership, don't worry, we'll fix it in conference. The Senate would never agree to this. Are you willing to accept the word of the leadership that somehow it, quote, would get fixed in conference?
They've been trying to feed me those kind of promises now for a few years, JD, and you always knew what those promises were like. No, if they're going to fix it now. And the leverage that you have to block something coming through is the only leverage you have. I sat with a very smart and wise young freshman here a month or two ago. He sat down next to me. It was late at night during votes, and he looked at me and he said, "I've got it figured out. It's all about leverage." And he's right. I've made all kinds of principled, cogent, good policy arguments that had zero traction because the time I made them, I didn't have the leverage to hold up a bill or block a bill. If you've got leverage, you'd better use it because promises disappear on you when a bill passes over to the other